I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
What if you could turn anxiety into peace? What if you could turn lack into prosperity? What if you could turn the sense of separation into oneness? What if you could turn fear into compassion? That's the power of our thoughts. You have that ability. You have that transformative power of thought to change, to enlighten your life, so that you can be the amazing, powerful, beautiful expression of spirit that you are. Do you believe that?
Yes.
So there was two monks, and they were walking beside a river, and they were talking. And of course, the monks have made a vow not to touch women. And so they're walking along, and lo and behold, they come upon a woman who's trying to cross this river, right? And the first monk goes up to her, and he picks her up, and he takes her to the other side of the river, and he sets her down gently. And then he joins the other monk on their walk. And they're walking along for a while, and it's obvious that the second monk is fuming. And at some point, he says, "Why did you do that? How could you do that?" And the first monk says, "Well, I simply picked her up and carried her across the river. Obviously, you are still carrying her." This story demonstrates the suffering that we have when we hang on to thoughts that don't work, right? The second monk was hanging on to this idea that monks don't touch women, and he was hanging on to it so much that it created suffering for him. And the same thing happens to us. If we focus on thoughts that are not productive, that are often repetitive. Ever have anything like that? Oh, overwhelming response today. Oftentimes I'll ask such a question, and a couple of people will say, "Oh yeah." Most people will say, "Oh no, not me." So, conscious thinking creates conscious living. And that's what we're really about today, is how can we transform our thinking so our thinking is conscious, and then our beingness, our way that we show up in the world, is conscious. I've felt this connection between Buddhism and unity for a long time. And it just came to me recently that it'd be fun to write a talk or do a series, as I'm doing, on the parallels between Buddhism and unity. As I talked to Gary about this the other day, and we were saying that it's all universal truth that we teach and that we resonate with. So this is the second talk on the Four Noble Truths. And as part of the fourth one is the Enlightened Path. And so last week we looked at right view, right? What is right view? And a right view is, from a Buddhist way of looking at it, is looking at what is real, what is really happening, what is the fullness of the experience that we're having. And in unity, right view is about connecting with source, with that presence within, and uniting with that source. So much that we live our lives and we live every moment connected to that source. So I think it's important just to go through the Four Noble Truths so we kind of get an idea of this. When the Buddha became enlightened, in his first teaching, he talked about the Four Noble Truths. And the first one says that suffering is a prevalent condition. Suffering just happens. Right? It's part of our human experience to sometimes have suffering. But the second noble truth says there are two general causes of suffering: craving, desiring, having to have something, and our attachment to it. Now, I'm sure none of us have any cravings or attachments to anything, right? So a lot of what we're looking at is that on this path is how can we rid our consciousness of craving? How can we rid our consciousness of attachment, right? So that we can be present in the moment. And the third noble truth provides reassurance that suffering can be transcended. So we can go, there is a way to transcend the suffering that we sometimes experience it. And that path to transcendence comes from the fourth noble truth, which offers us tools and guidance necessary to transform that suffering. Are you there? Interested in transforming that suffering? Well, it's a bit of a journey, I must say. We began it last week with looking at right view, and today we're looking at right thought. And all of these 8 truths around this wheel are the paths on the journey that we're taking to enlightenment. And so we'll take one every week, and by the end, we should reach Nirvana, right? Don't you want that? Doesn't everybody on the spiritual path want that? So we're going to get these tools to do that. And as we discovered last week, it's simple. Is it a simple path? It's simple in idea, but in actually doing it requires some work, because it means that we have to be actively working with these principles in order for it to happen. But I like this because it's a roadmap that we can use to get to this place. So last week we talked about right view, and looking at it from right view, I mentioned this a moment ago, but in the Buddhist idea, it's perceiving what really is, what is really present right here in the moment. Right? It could be what we're really feeling, it could be what we're really thinking, and it's really about looking at that and determining how can I understand what is happening, and how can I use that to transform my journey. And in unity, we say it is to know the truth. To know the truth, as Jesus said, and it will set you free. Knowing that there's only love, knowing that there's only peace, knowing that there's only joy. How can we access that in a way? How can we see that in such a way that we're transformed by it? So that's what we talked about last week. This week, we're talking about right thought. You know, our thoughts are amazing, aren't they? One of the basic teachings we know in unity is that thoughts are things, and thoughts are creative energies that move from this imagined, or this world in our mind, and then out into manifestation. That we can actually manifest the things that we think about. So, imagine what your life would be like if you had right thoughts all the time. That'd be pretty awesome, wouldn't it? You know, and you do have that ability. You might say, well, having thoughts isn't a problem, is it? Right? We all have thoughts. hopefully. If we don't, that's really a problem. But we all have thoughts, and it's not the thought that's the problem. It's the oftentimes with a harmful thought, it's how often we think the harmful thought. Right? Do you ever notice that we have all these wonderful thoughts and life is good and we have all these affirmations, and then something shows up and it goes boing, right? You should be afraid right now, or you should be scared, or you're not being the best that you can be. And you ever have those thoughts play in your mind that kind of belittle you in some sense? It's like, who is that voice? So today we're going to look at how can we transform that small voice into a voice of love and power and truth. Now, here are some harmful thoughts. I don't want you to memorize these because you already know them. And we know that what we focus on, we get more of, right? But in all of this description that we're about in this moment, I want you to sort of identify one harmful thought that you have. It could be self-criticism. Ever say, I'm not good enough? Or I can't do this? Or this is too hard for me? Or this is not working? Or do you ever dwell on worrying about the future? Somebody else say, oh, let's go do such and such. And you think, oh, no, but what if this happens? Or what if it rains? Or what if we can't get in? Or what if? And you know, all of these thoughts keep us from being the best that we can be. They inhibit us. Granted, sometimes thoughts like this are necessary because they keep us from doing things that are crazy, right? But for the most part, when we get these thoughts that repeat themselves, it's often just that small, literally small voice inside. Or you ever have thoughts, or do you ever make assumptions that somebody doesn't like me? I know they don't like me. I know that they don't think I'm worthy. I know that they don't think that I'm smart enough. I know that they're thinking I'm not in good enough shape. Oh, I know that it's so funny when we can be with somebody and have these thoughts, and the danger really is it affects how we are in the moment. Right? Because when we're having harmful thoughts, it keeps us from being present in the moment. And that's what this spiritual path is about. That's what unity and Buddhism are about. It's all about practicing principles that can help us to be present right now. Because when we're present in this moment, and when we're thinking these divine-like thoughts, when we're thinking these love-like thoughts, we can be present. And none of that stuff is going to worry us. Isn't that the goal? To be able to be fully present, to live, to love, and to be to the fullest of our ability. And the last one is memories of trauma. When I was a child, this happened to me. And it keeps happening to me. And it keeps playing itself out. And because of this thing that happened to me, I can't show up fully, right? Because I keep remembering this traumatic thing that happened to me. And I have to change my behavior because God forbid anything ever happens like that again, right? So we can have this harmful thought that keeps us from being present. So the right thought in Buddhism is about cultivating pure, positive, and loving thinking. And in unity, it's about aligning with our divine mind, with the presence of God that is in us and everywhere in the universe. And just aligning with that and being with that and focusing on that and bringing those qualities into this moment to be present. I like these two philosophies because their shared values teach us to relate to ourselves and others and the world in a more conscious way. To be present to that, to breathe into that, to be that. Charles Fillmore, this is what I wanted to show you. So both unity and Buddhism serve as guides for living an examined life, marked by compassion, mindfulness, wisdom, and spiritual progress. Think about that. Isn't that the basics of what it's all about? To live an examined life. To really pay attention to what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're saying, how we're being, and to be present with that. And then to be compassionate, to be mindful, to be wise. To me, wisdom is about bringing in truth and heart. That to me is what wisdom represents. And if we can be in that place and be aware of our spiritual progress, to be aware that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And sometimes that physical stuff gets in the way. But then we can always go back to the spiritual stuff because that helps us to weave our way through it. And both of these paths teach us to be more conscious. Take a breath with me. Feel that. You are that. You have that. That is the truth and the essence of who you are. To be a conscious spiritual being having a physical experience. Every thought we think, Charles Fillmore said, is a force sent out. I love that. He said this, over 100 years ago. Every thought we think is a force sent out. This man was way ahead of his time because we understand now that thoughts are things, thoughts are energy, and the thoughts that we have the ability to create. So thoughts are a force. You have that force. You create your life, your environment, your relationship out of your thoughts. Conscious thinking creates conscious living. I want to live consciously, don't you? I know you do. I consciously cultivate thoughts that serve my highest good. Say that with me. I consciously cultivate thoughts that serve my highest good. Feel that. That's the truth of who you are. This is your higher self. This is your divine mind. This is the culmination of truth that you know, desiring to express itself as and through you. Stephen Hawking was a theoretical physicist who made significant contributions to our understanding of the universe. However, as you know, he was also diagnosed with ALS, which is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that eventually left him paralyzed. And he had the belief for a while that he could never do the work that he did because he was confined to a wheelchair. And he thought, how can I live my passion? How can I live and bring out these scientific truths that I love so much and that the world wants to hear when I'm confined to a wheelchair? But he was able to overcome that belief. He challenged the belief that he was helpless. He focused on the positive and he took action. And he did the work that really, I kind of believe just kind of came through him, right? He became a channel for this information in the same way you are a channel of love and light and truth in this world. The universe desires to bring this truth through you in your own unique way. because you are a divine being having a physical experience, and that divine beingness desires to express itself as you. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? What a beautiful gift you have to be that light in the world, as we sang about earlier. To hold that light, to be that light, to demonstrate that life, to be a light of change and harmony. And God knows the world needs harmony right now. So this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time to us to take this fullness, this truth out into the world. So, I'm going to, do you want to do an exercise? Okay, you can't hardly get away, right? The doors are locked, so you're not going to be able to go anywhere. So I'm going to do an exercise that I call stop, stop, stop. It's an NLP exercise. So we're combining Buddhism, unity, and NLP today to transform our thoughts. And I love this exercise, and I promise you, if you use it, it will work. I promise you. I use it myself. I love it. It's powerful, and it makes a difference right now. As soon as you do it, there will be a difference. It may be slight, but repeating it and doing it over time is going to have a dramatic effect of changing the way you think. So, you remember that thought you had a little while ago? The one that the sort of the negative thought. And we're looking for kind of a negative, repetitive thought. You have one? Just kind of raise an eyebrow or something. Let me know that you have one, something that shows up for you a lot, and that you're willing to work on today. And you don't have to share this with anybody. It's just your own work that happens for you right where you are. Okay, so think of a negative thought and just kind of feel how it feels. If you really were connected to it, you might notice it's a little engaging, it's a little depressing, it's a little bit, pulls you down a little bit. And I invite you to think that thought and then say, stop. Think that thought and say, stop. And take a breath. Think that thought and say, stop. Okay, now we're really going to get into it a little bit more. And I want you to think that thought again and say, stop, stop, stop. Right? You know, and I would advise you don't do this downtown Kahului, right? This is something you want to do in the privacy of your own home with people that you love. So you think of the thought, we're going to say stop, stop, stop. And I invite you to put your hands up in a stop kind of a gesture, right? Because you are sending a signal to your unconscious mind that this is important, and you're putting energy behind it, which is where that transformation begins. So, ready? Okay, think the thought and say, stop, stop, stop. And you know, when you're doing this at home or on the street corner, if you so choose, I invite you to stand. You don't have to do it now because I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to do it here. But you can if you want to. Is to stand up and say, think the thought and say, stop, stop, stop. And your mind goes, wow, it's powerful. Can you feel the power in that? right? So this will take some time to work through this, but this is a technique that will shift the way you're thinking. And we know this, being Unity students, this is just like a denial, right? But it's a denial that engages our whole body, and our whole body is an energy force. And we're engaging all of that to say, stop, right? And your mind goes, whoa, I guess I better not think that thought again, right? Okay. So now that we've stopped it, remember a time when you acted with confidence, when you acted with power, when you acted with love. And we want to turn the thing we said stop to around. For example, if it was, I'm not good enough, to say, I am good enough, right? And to remember a time when you were good enough, when a time in your past, and we all have those moments, and if you can't think of something, make it up, right? Because your mind doesn't know the difference. Right? I can't really think of a time when I was good enough, but I can pretend like it, and pretending is as effective, right? So I'm going to act as if I am good enough, and I'm going to say, I'm going to remember, I'm going to hold this time, I'm going to feel this time, I'm going to feel what it feels like to be in that power, to know that I am enough. And affirm that. So take a deep breath. You've got something that is that which you want to know is truth for you. And to feel that. To feel a time when you were successful. When you were enough. When you knew the truth. When you were healthy. When you were at peace. And say, I am healthy and whole. I feel it. I am healthy and whole. Now, the last part of this is to use an NLP term, to anchor it in, right? We're going to anchor this truth, right? And we're going to anchor it by saying, yes, I did it, right? And we're telling the universe, we're telling our consciousness, we're telling our spiritual being and our physical being, yes, I did this. So if you want to stand up, because this is a fun one to do standing up. And I invite you, to use whatever arm you want. I like to use my right arm. And I'm going to say, yes, I did it. Let's do it again. Yes, I did it. All right, thank you. Give yourselves a hand. This technique works because it trains our mind. It reaches into our subconscious, right? It reaches into that spiritual part, the spiritual truth of who we are, and says, wow, this is who you are. Yes, this is my truth. When we say, yes, I did it, that spiritual being inside of us is jumping into our skin and saying, yes, this is who I am. You know, our thoughts follow neural pathways in our brains. The more we think about something, the larger that pathway, and the more energy we use. And that's why it's so important to do this exercise with energy, because we are strengthening these pathways. And we're letting the other ones go dormant, right? And we're feeding the new ones. So that we're feeding this truth, we're feeding this understanding, we're feeding this power. You know, Stephen Hawking didn't overcome the challenge that he faced mentally overnight. To continue to do what he did, it took time. And in the same way, to get this to work for you, you have to work it. Famous Unity minister said, it works if you work it. Anybody remember who that was that said that? Johnny Coleman, that's right, thanks Gary. Johnny Coleman said, it works if you work it. It works if you work these principles. They will work. You will be transformed. You'll wake up every day a little brighter. Your light will shine a little bit more. You'll be able to be who you are with more power and more love and more peace and more joy. And you will connect with that essence of the truth of who you are and be that. And let your light shine. Because that's who you are. And so it is. Breathing in and breathing out. Imagine that the breath is moving in and through, touching every space in your spiritual beingness, enlightening the truth that you are, connecting with the essence of spirit, the Christ light, the Buddha light. And breathe into this essence. And see this light moving through every cell of your body. See this light emanating through your eyes. Onto everything you see. Breathing in. Letting this light shine. Imagine that it goes before you. Imagine that it emanates behind you and around you. Imagine that it affects your household, your partners, your friends. Imagine that this light radiates from you and goes out across the world. Breathing in. And let's take just a moment to rest in the silence. I consciously cultivate thoughts that serve my highest good. And I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this moment. Feeling the gentle warmth of this moment. And so it is. Wow, where do we go from here? Well, I invite you now to prepare your tithes and your love offerings and your gifts to Unity on Maui. And to thank you in advance for that which you give to us. I like to think that when we give to the spiritual center, we are in essence giving to ourselves, because your gifts help us to continue this amazing work that we get to do. And we are so blessed to be able to do this work. And I hope that it impacts your life. Does these teachings impact anybody's life? Yeah? Shall we go on doing them?
Yeah.
Will you continue to come?
Yeah.
Okay. But I can stay home and do this by myself, but it gets really boring after a while, But thank you for sharing your love with us and being a part of our consciousness today. I know that just being a part of being in the midst of community and this message that we are being transformed, and I think for me, it really empowers my commitment to being a powerful expression of love and light in the world, right? And that is the truth of who we are. So thank you for living that, for being that, and thank you for being here this morning. So as we hold our gifts, I invite you to breathe into them, to feel them, to send your energy of love and light with them. And let's affirm and pray together our unity affirmation of prosperity together. Through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Thank you, loving Spirit, for these gifts that have come to us in love. We hold them, we bless them, we give thanks for them. We see them moving in and through, and as this ministry out into the world, and we behold a world filled with love and light and joy and peace. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we've got just a couple announcements today. You have the opportunity every Sunday to sign up to bring flowers. We didn't have flowers today, but we do have picks and tuners. The Beatles, yes. Adorning our beautiful flower stand today. So, but if you bring flowers, we'll put some flowers up here, and you can, we'd be happy to mention how you'd like those flowers dedicated. And there's a sign-up sheet in the back, so sign up when you'd like to, and we will lovingly embrace your flowers and celebrate with you. Our class continues to do, where am I here? Oh, here we go. Prashanti is continuing this weekly class on Kundalini meditation. It happens here from 6 to 7:15 every Tuesday. And I just saw she put an ad in on Freddie's say what? Haiku Helen, that's where it was. Thank you. So I'm hoping that, we'd like to see the numbers grow a little bit. If you haven't checked it out yet, come and check it out. Emily and I are talking about perhaps coming this Tuesday. Come out and let's see what's happening with Kundalini meditation. She's a delightful presence. Also, we have a sound bath meditation coming up on August 4th from 4 to 5 p.m. And Carrie Sawyer is doing that. It's a great way to come and relax. And you can come and lay on a yoga mat on the floor. You can sit in a chair. And it's a great way to connect to yourself and enjoy the spiritual presence. Next week, my talk continues with the Eightfold Path to Enlightenment. And next week, we're talking about right speech. How can we change the way that we speak in a way that opens ourselves up to be the fullest expressions of truth and the Christ self that we possibly can? So that'll be fun next week. And I'm hoping that Marianne and Ames will be here next week. Yeah. Okay, fabulous. That's worth the price of admission right there, isn't it? All right, and as usual, my Walk Your Talk is on the back table. It's kind of a summary of everything I talked about today. And you can take that home with you. It's in yellow today. And I'd like to invite Kealoha up to give us a little announcement. Kealoha is the master wizard of our finances around here. Yeah, you probably do, just because we'd like to hear your voice.
This isn't about finances at all. This is about how amazingly cooperative and wonderful you all were parking today, because there are 31 cars on this property.
Wow.
But it's also a public service announcement, because if you came right before service or during service or near the end of service, I had to put you in an awkward spot close to someone. So when you go to leave, if you think it's not safe for you to back out, come and get me and I will help. We can't have any accidents here, but we want to accommodate everybody.
Thank you. Let's give Kealoha a hand. Woo! All right. So I think that brings us to the end. Where's my other slide here? Usually I have the prayer for protection up here. It's way back here? Nope. Well, you all know the prayer for protection anyway, don't you? Yes. All right. If you don't, just move your lips and we'll say it for you. So please stand, and we'll say the prayer for protection, and then we'll sing the peace song. So breathing in, and let's say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is.
Where I